The Mets yesterday continued their offensive onslaught as they scored 10 runs in the third straight game for the first time in franchise history. And listen, it's clicking on all cylinders for the Mets. The pitching has been good. The starting pitching has been excellent. Severino again yesterday went 6 innings, gave up 3 runs. It's just all been coming up at the right time and for the Mets here. As they come down the stretch, they still have only a 2-game lead on the Braves. They are tied with the Diamondbacks and 2 games behind the Padres for the first wildcard spot. Listen, this Mets team, it can't go on like this, right? It can't continue like this, forever, obviously. They scored 10 runs. They got 4 home runs last night. They had back-to-back home runs, Vientos and Alonso in the first inning. Severino, he was breaking off some real good breaking balls, and the Phillies just couldn't touch him. And the Mets just ran away with this game, and it wasn't even as close as 10-6. There were some issues with the bullpen. Again, the bullpen is obviously the weak point of this team. It's obviously the Achilles heel of this team. It will be the reason their season ends whenever it does end. The bullpen will be the reason. And you saw again last night, you had Young come in and to a 9-3 game, and all of a sudden it's 9-6. And in the playoffs, it's not gonna be like that. You're gonna be coming into 4-2 games or 3-2 games, and then you fall behind if you pitch like the Mets bullpen did last night. But so far this week and over the last month, they're 13-4 in the month of September. They've won 16 of 20. They are by far the best team in baseball right now over the past 40 games. You got everything is clicking for this team, and it's at the right time, right? They got a 2-game lead on the Braves, and I told you that I would only feel comfortable going into that Braves series if they were able to lose 2 out of 3 and still be in good shape. And it seemed like that was going to be a hard ask. But that's where we're at now. They go into Atlanta. They still have 3 more with Philadelphia. Tonight's a big one. You got David Peterson pitching. He's 9-2. He's been one of the best pitchers in the National League over the last, basically since just before the All-Star break. He's 9-2. He's got a 2.85 ERA. And he goes against Sanchez, who pitched very well against the Mets last week. He really stifled this offense, the only pitcher who was able to do so. And tonight you had big crowds. The crowds are getting better. I bitched and moaned about the crowd the other night when I was at the game. Last night, 36,000, I believe. So the crowds are going to be better. Tonight should sell out. I would think it would sell out. They've won 4 in a row. They're right there. This is now a must-see thing with this team. They are the team to watch right now in this town. You had the Jets on last night. Most Mets fans are Jets fans, and they still got 36,000. So good job by the Mets fans. Good job getting there. Good job filling the ballpark. It was an electric crowd last night. 2 nights prior when I was there, it didn't have a playoff feel. Last night was a playoff feel. And I can imagine it's only going to get that much more intense tonight on the Friday night and tomorrow and Sunday. They're all national televised games. Well, last night was on Fox, but it was a regional coverage. It was actually on WWOR here because the Jets were on Fox. Because the local NFL game has to be broadcast, to everybody. So I know they were the Amazon Prime game, but because we're in the local market, it has to be put on television. It got Fox. The Mets got pushed over to WWOR. I don't think it's WWOR, but Channel 9. And they scored 10 runs. Severino, again, good pitching by Severino. The Mets, Acuna looks every bit the part. He looks like one of those guys. Like he wasn't great in the minor leagues. He looks like he could be, and they said this on the broadcast, they could be one of those guys who just is better in the major leagues than he was in the minor leagues. Because when I was there the other night and he hit a double up the gap, it was one of the hardest balls I've seen hit. And the Mets, that's another thing. These home runs they're hitting line drives, screaming line drives. Acuna's triple last night was just a rope. Alvarez has hit 2 in the Alvarez home run last night and his home run the other night when I was at the game. Laser beams out. The ball left the park in less than 2 seconds. they're just hitting the ball extremely hard. Alonso with an opposite field home run. Alonso has now caught fire. Maybe he's finally hitting his stride. And this is exactly the kind of team that gets red hot. They're the Diamondbacks of last year. That's what the Mets are doing right now. They're catching fire at the right time. They're playing. Everything's going their way. They're winning games. The crowd's enthusiastic. The players now feel like they can hit any pitcher. They can hit any pitcher hard. They can come back from any deficit. They feel like they can't lose right now. And it kind of, that's a contagious feeling. You know, when you've won 16 of 20, 4 in a row, 13-4 in the month of September, perhaps the most important month of a baseball season. They're 13-4. We thought that this was going to be trouble. They got the Phillies, and they got the Braves. Now, there's still time for this thing to go south, right? They don't have a 6-game lead. They have a 2-game lead. So you got to keep it up. That's the thing about a pennant race when there's multiple teams involved is you got to win every day. And it grinds on you, and it becomes tough. But this team has shown very, very resilient. And the manager's done a fantastic job this year with this team. The way that they started just in the tank, just terrible first couple of months, and they were terrible. The whole thing was going wrong. You had the pitcher throwing his mid into the stands. You had the team was losing games. The Diaz was blowing saves left and right. And then to completely turn it around, it's been an amazing season, and it's been a fun team to watch, and it's been a frustrating team to watch at times because they were so inconsistent, and they finally have found consistency, and they found consistency at the right time, and I think they're going to go to the playoffs now. I wouldn't say it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to go to the playoffs, but this team's going to go to the playoffs because they're playing very well, and they could do damage in the playoffs. Because now you want to get to that first wild card. You want to have a home game, in the 3-game series, because it's all the first round. You get the 3-game series all played in one spot. You want to have that at home. Mets have a home field advantage. So now that they are chasing, I know you want to just get in, but they're chasing San Diego. You could somehow catch them and get that first wild card, then you'd be in real good shape, and you'd be staying home for the first series. Today's game is 7:10. David Peterson against Sanchez. Like I said, Sanchez, he had the Mets number last time. He pitched very well. Peterson has been money every time out. 9-2, 2.85 ERA. I mean, the Mets, between Peterson and Minaya, and that's who's going these next 2 days. Mets could very easily take the first 3 games of the series. And when you're putting up 10 runs a night, you're going to win a lot of games. Like I said, you want these starting pitchers to go as long as possible because that bullpen is an issue. And you saw it last night even. You see it on a nightly basis with the bullpen. The bullpen comes in. The Mets have had 9-run leads, 8-run leads. They're up 6 and 7 runs. And you kind of get nervous when the bullpen comes in. That's not how it should be. They should have cruised last night. There were multiple times that the Phillies brought the tying run to the plate. The game was 9-3 at one point. The Mets put up 5 runs in the 3rd inning. Because Severino did give up the 2-run homer. That tied the game, and that was really the last you heard of the Phillies. And you figured, okay, now it's going to be over. We got a 5-run 3rd inning. They're up 7-2, 8-2. Then it's 9-3, and you figure we're good. We'll cruise the rest of the way. We got this in the back pocket. And then the bullpen comes in, and Young struggles. And he struggled last night. He gave up. They loaded the bases with nobody out, and I wouldn't say I was worried they were going to lose this game, but it was not as easy as it should have been. 10-6 is not what I saw. After that 5-run inning, the Mets had a 9-3 lead in the 4th inning. And then here come the Phillies. They got 3 in the 7th. And you're like, oh, here we go. And then Acuna, who has just been, I mean, you can't imagine sending him back down, right? Acuna's got a spot on this team now. The way he's hitting, his enthusiasm, he looks a little bit like his brother. Obviously not as polished as his brother, and not I don't think he has the skills of his brother, but he is everything you want in a young player. He's got a fantastic swing. He hits the ball hard. He hits line drives. He can play the field. Unbelievable. And it's exactly what you want to see, because a lot of times these players come up here for the Mets and they're just not as good as you hope they're going to be. You know, we all went through the Lastings Millage, and just you could get, it's an endless list of them. Prospects are like lottery tickets, I say. You know, it's hard to find a winner. But, you know, maybe the Mets have a winner here, and you're not going to know for another year or two, because when Beatty came up, he looked good too for a little while, but then he struggled in that Braves series where the Mets got swept that year. And he just really never, they sent him back down, and he never really recovered. You know, now that you got Acuna up here, he's hitting, he's playing well, you want to keep him up here. You start playing yo-yo with these guys down to the minors, then back out, you start screwing with them. And right now, you don't want to screw with anything with this team, because everything's going right. You know, I mean, listen, you have Alonso's hitting. Alvarez is starting to hit with power. The power's starting to come. The starting pitching has been excellent for the majority of this season. The defense is, the middle infield defense is some of the best you will see. The Phillies are better. The Phillies turned some double plays last night that you're like, whoa. But the Mets defense is solid. And this has been without Lindor now for the last week. So if you could get Lindor back and throw him into the mix, and it's perfect because you're not forcing Lindor back now. If the Mets were losing these games, you'd be like, where's Lindor? And you might force him back a little early, and then he'd get hurt, and then you lose him the rest of the way. They're playing like this. You don't have to have Lindor. You can have him sit and take another day, take another couple days, especially if you have a little cushion, which the Mets now have a 2-game cushion. So when you have that, you can kind of be like, Lindor, listen, don't come back until you're perfect, because we can't afford him to come back and then lose him again. Then all hope is going to be lost, because they can't keep this up without Lindor. Lindor's still their best player. Now, the only thing the Mets or any Mets player did lose last night or recently at all is Lindor lost the MVP. Right? He's not going to be the MVP. With Ohtani having one of the great games anybody's ever had. Speaking of, the Mets hitting their stride and being hot, Shohei Ohtani had one of the greatest games in baseball history last night. The Dodgers scored 20 runs. Ohtani was 6 for 6, 2 stolen bases, 3 home runs, 10 RBIs, and he became the first member ever of the 50-50 club. I didn't agree with Tim Brown when the baseball writer, when we had him on the show, when he said Shohei Ohtani is the greatest baseball player of all time. I mean, it's getting hard to argue with it. Last night was, to set that record to become the first 50-50 guy in a game where you go 6 for 6, steal 2 bases, 10 RBIs, that's a good month for a lot of players. He did it in 9 innings. And that, any doubt that he was the MVP was washed away last night with that. But that's not really a big deal with the Mets and Lindor. I don't think Lindor really cares. All right, he won the Roberto Clemente Award, which is kind of like, the big award amongst players that they covet. It's like the Rangers, giving away the Stephen McDonald Award or something like that. So he won that, Lindor. Got to get him back on the field, though. And you don't want to rush him back, especially with a back injury that, if it flares up. And you saw him run down the first the other day when he played, right? That's what a back injury can do. So you got, and the fact that they're clicking on all cylinders and they're winning ball games, they're scoring a ton of runs, you can afford to leave him on the side for a little bit. Because if you make it to October, you're going to need Lindor in October. Now, the bullpen, I don't think the bullpen's fixable. I think the bullpen is what it is. I think on any night it can blow up and blow a game. You kind of hold your breath when the bullpen's in there. So when you get games like tonight with Peterson or Minaya, Severino has looked excellent now in the last about 4 starts. You want to get these starters, push them as far as you can, because you want to stay as far away from the bullpen as possible. You want to go, maybe, Les Stanek has pitched well last night. At times, Matos has pitched well. You don't want to. If you see Ottavino or Young in there, it's going to be trouble. They're going to lose games that way. And whenever this run finally ends, barring a World Series championship, it's going to end because of the bullpen, and it's going to be a devastating loss. You know it's going to be. One, because that's what the Mets do, and two, because this bullpen is very highly inconsistent. A lot of bullpens are, but this one is especially. And if you're going up against a team like, say, San Diego, who's got an excellent bullpen, lights out bullpen, you're going to need your starters to go deep into these games. 7 innings, 8 innings. That's what you need out of this team. That's what your bullpen's like. You can afford to go one guy, Diaz. And even when you do that, sometimes Diaz is going to blow games, and he's blown a lot of games this year. But he's still the best guy you got out there. But when you start seeing people like Adam Ottavino or Young in the game, it's going to be trouble. And it was trouble last night. They were able to withstand it because they built themselves 7-8 run leads. The bullpen stinks, but it's not really blowing 7-8 run leads on a daily basis. So tonight, they're the Apple TV game tonight. You got Sanchez for the Phillies. You got Peterson for the Mets. You want to try, if you get this thing to 3, you're in good shape. This 9 games left in the season. If you could get this thing to 3, if the Braves can trip and stumble, the Braves now are at a point where they can't stumble. They need to win every day. Because if they stumble and they go 3 back, and then all of a sudden it's 4, and then it's over. Then it's going to be not the Braves and the Mets fighting for that last position. It's going to be the Braves and the Diamondbacks. And the Diamondbacks won yesterday. The Braves scored a ton of runs, 15 yesterday. Like I said, this is how pennant races are. You have to win every day, especially when there's multiple teams in it. And you got the Mets, the Diamondbacks, the Braves, 3 teams for 2 spots. And the Mets have a 2-game lead ahead of the Braves. 3 games left in this series. 3 more home games left all season. So get out there. I'll be there tonight. Me and Brett are going tonight. Get out there and cheer this team on. They've earned it. They've had a heck of a season. Out of nowhere. And now we're hoping to get some October baseball. So the Mets win again last night. 4 in a row. 13-4 in the month of September. 16 out of the last 20. They try and extend that lead. 2-game lead on the Braves right now. They win 10-6 last night. Severino, good 6 innings. Gave up 3 runs. You'll take that any day from him. He's been much better than I thought he would be. So that's going to do it from us. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Always rate, review, and subscribe. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us anywhere you get your podcast. You can also find us on the Swell app, where we do 5-minute shows. And as always, at our central hub at lockedupsports.net, lockedupsports.net. From the Brian Gunzel studio, I'm Bob Walters. We'll talk to you later, everybody. See ya.